Welcome back to my channel, Deck Tech for Decks, and today we are going to be doing a deck tech on Imotekh the Stormlord. This guy on its face was like, oh okay, that's pretty cool, and then the more I got into it, the more I was like, no, this dude's just broken. This guy goes infinite with the kitchen sink, guys, and it's really fun doing it because you don't have to go necessarily infinite to get full use out of this guy. Just imagine going like almost infinite and just creating a massive board state of Necron warriors. This is going to be a really fun deck, and I'm really glad you guys are tuning in, so let's get into it. This guy wants artifacts in the graveyard, and then he wants those cards to leave the graveyard, so that's exactly what we're going to do. We've got Junk Diver and Workshop Assistant. Cast one, sacrifice it, cast the other one, bring it back, loop that, and create a massive board while doing it. We also have Mirror Retriever and Scrap Trawler, same thing. Cast it, sack it, cast the other one, bring it back, loop that shit. We've got Scarecrow. This one not as effective, but it brings something back, so we put it in there. Lich Guard. This guy's going to sit there and they're just going to have to shake their head like, do I want to destroy that or his commander? Because if I destroy his commander, he's just going to use that. And if I destroy it, he still has his commander, right? So you're going to dodge removal with this without even having to do anything. Same thing with Cryptek. You know, you're just going to leave that on the board for their whole turn cycle and not use it, and then use it at the beginning of their upkeep. That way they're going to have to go, I have to destroy Cryptek before I can destroy his commander, because if I don't, he's just going to use it and bring his commander back. You know, it makes them think. And the more you make your opponents think, the more mistakes they're going to make. So anytime we can do that, we're going to try. And Arkar the Traveler. This guy's really good. He, on attack, you just pay some life and bring one back from the graveyard. We like that. Technomancer. This one's broken because it can actually bring multiples back, right? So start chucking this guy into the graveyard and bringing him back, and we're really cooking. Dread Return. Yes, there's mill in the deck, but if you mill this, we can still cast it from the graveyard, so we threw it in the deck. Ghost Arc. This one's kind of broken because remember, you can crew it multiple times, right? So you can crew it, unearth something, crew it again, unearth another thing. Notably, that's going to exile them, which you want to stay away from, but in this scenario, you're probably trying to either close out the game or kill an opponent. One. Nim Deathmantle, 4 mana to bring a creature back. I like it. Resurrection Orb, same thing. A little bit slower, but it gives you lifelink, so that makes up for it. Alright guys, let's get into the meteor part of the deck. We've got Surrect the Silent King. You guys knew he'd be in here, and he's really good in the deck. Just milling cards, that's what we want to do. Altar of Dementia, again, really efficient mill. Out of the Tomb. This one's pretty good, and I don't think people are giving it enough credit, right? Because the first time it triggers, you get 2, and then 4, and then 6. At that point, you've milled 10 cards with this, and all it's done is set on the battlefield. That's pretty good. Crypto Thrall, giving all of our artifact creatures hexproof. That's welcomed. Orbs of Warding, because giving yourself hexproof is going to make you untargetable from people exiling your graveyard, and we need our graveyard in this deck. Elixir of Immortality. We'd rather have our graveyard in our library than exiled. Sensei's Divining Top and Mystic Forge. This one's pretty effective, right? Because you just cast your Divining Top, put it on top, draw a card, cast it again, and you can just keep casting it and basically drawing a card for 1 mana. It's not infinite, but it's really effective. We've then got Sculpting Steel, you know, just copy anything. This deck is like 90% artifacts, so it's gonna be whatever you want it to be. Kudotha Forge Master. It's not gonna be hard to hit that 3 artifact threshold to just start tutoring for our pieces and go off. Trizend the Infinite. There's a lot of activated abilities that we are going to be milling into our graveyard, and this guy's gonna give us access to all of them. You know, I don't know what happens when you activate Elixir of Immortality with Trizend, which one you shuffle into your library, but that's for a judge to decide. Royal Warden. This one, kind of a copy of your commander, right? It'll go infinite with the Nim Deathmantle and the Ashnod's Altar, so throw him in here. He's going to be pretty effective. If not, just creates board power, right? And then Scorpek Lord. This is going to turn your Necron Warriors into 3/2s with Menace. That's terrifying. Alright guys, let's get into that card advantage. One of my favorite parts. We've got Chronomancer. Sack an artifact, draw a card. Simple, easy, effective. Triarch Praetorian. This one, it unearths or you just cast it. ETBs, draw a card. I like it. Canoptic Spider. This one, I see it going up in value and I see it being really effective in the deck. Cast an artifact, draw a card. That's basically, like I said, 90% of the deck. So, Keskit the Flesh Sculptor. First of all, terrifying name. And the art, terrifying as well, so fitting name. This one not only draws you a card, but it's going to mill you some too, so he definitely gets to go in the deck. Skull Clamp, attach it to one of those warriors, send it off to die, and draw some cards. Dark Prophecy, this one notably lets you draw cards off of tokens dying, which is pretty rare, so that's why it sees play in this deck. Smothering Abomination, same thing, you can draw cards off of tokens dying. Now, Midnight Reaper and Grim Horror specs, they don't work on tokens, but we are going to be sacrificing a lot of artifact creatures, so I justified them that way. And then Dread Presence. Alright guys, let's get into the ramp. We have Cryptcast. I'd just like to do a little rolling thing with this one. Since the Orzhov Pip is in the reminder text of Extort, it does not mess with the color identity. They've ruled that Extort can be put in mono black decks and mono white decks if the color's white. So I just want to, ease you guys that this is a mono black card and it's going to do work in this deck. It's basically going to double all of our mana. Pitiless Plunderer. Every time we sack one of those creatures, we're going to get a treasure token. That's going to be amazing. Canoptic Wraith. This one, it has unblockable. We're going to pay 3 mana and get 2 lands. I like that. Ashnod's Altar and Crop Clan Ironworks. These cards are insane. They're going to generate a lot of mana and they're both really effective in the deck because we can use both of them to sacrifice our Necron warriors. That's why this deck is so powerful in my opinion. Having 2 Ashnod's Altar in the deck, that sounds pretty broken. We then have Cage Sun. It's a mono black deck, doubling the mana. Gotta love it. It also gives our Necrons a little boost. Gilded Lotus, just effective ramp. Scepter of Eternal Glory, really effective ramp, especially in a mono deck. We're going to be able to hit that 3 mana threshold really easy. Arcane Signet for the effective ramp. Wayfarer's Bauble, just really early effective ramp. Soul Ring, again, really early effective ramp. Solemn Simulacrum, not only draw us a card, it's going to ramp us, and we can bring him back from the graveyard later on, get some more value. And then Illuminor Saras, a sack outlet that gives you mana. What more could you want? Alright, moving on to removal, we have Armex Filigree Thrasher. There's a lot of text on this guy, but all you need to know is as long as your graveyard's full of those artifact goodiness, this guy's going to kill whatever you need. And if he does, who cares? Bring him back, He can also get around indestructible because he's giving them -, so that's really good. Noxious Gearhulk, a personal favorite of mine, had to throw him in the deck so he could be with his Necron buddies. We've got Canoptic Tomb Sentinel. This card seems insane, right? Because it's not going to be hard. It's not going to be hard to bring this guy back from the graveyard and just start killing people's permanents. Locust Heavy Destroyer. This one, just a Necron that kills shit. I like it. Necron Deathmark, same shit. Throw it in there because it had Necron in there and killed something. Defile, really efficient removal. Mutilate, a really efficient board wipe. Their name is Death, one-sided board knight. And Phyrexian Scriptures. They're going to have one turn to try to get rid of this before you're going to be able to put yourself in a commanding position for the game. Finally, let's talk about how we're going to close this game out. We have Marionette Master. This one, have it enter with the counters, start sacking shit, and everybody's going to die. Psychomancer, same thing. Just start looping stuff through the graveyard. Doesn't even have to be infinite, but keep looping stuff through the graveyard. Over time, people are just going to die. Buried Alive, I put this in this category because it can get you Ashnod's Altar and Mirror Retriever and Scrap Trawler in your graveyard, right? I'm sorry, Ashnod's Altar is not a creature. But it can get you 2 out of the 3 things you need, right? So, pretty broken. We then have Agent of the Iron Throne. This one goes with the other one. Just start killing your stuff and everybody's gonna die. Finally, I'd just like to list the infinite combos in there. Like, I know they're in there, but I just wanted to list them so you don't have to go digging for them. Junk Diver, Workshop Assistant. Obviously, let's make sure our commander's on the battlefield for any of these. Make sure Astronaut's Altar is just looping the Junk Diver and Workshop Assistant. You'll be netting mana. Mirror Retriever and Scrap Trawler, same thing. Loop it with Astronaut's Altar or Croc Clan Ironworks, and you'll be netting mana. Nim Death Mantle with Royal Warden. You can loop that with Astronaut's Altar. Your commander doesn't have to be on the battlefield for that one. And then Nim Death Mantle, Astronaut's Altar with any artifact creature in the deck. That's just going to loop, and your commander is just going to create a massive army. Astronaut's Altar is just going to be replaceable with Clark Clan Ironworks, which is why I think this deck is so powerful, because you basically have 2 Astronaut's Altar. So this deck, it does go infinite with the kitchen sink. So I'll leave you guys with that, and thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.